What's up, guys? I think I'm getting pretty used to this whole... Oh, let me fix the microphone. Alright, there we go. I think I'm getting used to the whole setting up and recording just stuff that I want to talk about. So yeah, we're just going to jump straight into it. Again, if you hear any fan or like heater noises, it's my heater because it is quite cold. But yeah, today I want to talk about I jumped in to a show that I have seen a lot of people talking about, Severance. I honestly did not expect to like it that much. I knew nothing going into it. I just heard the name going around, and I decided, I'm trying to experience more art forms. So I just jumped in and I watched it legally on a legal website. And I will say, it is probably one of my favorite shows ever. I wasn't really expecting that. Some of my favorite shows, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Boys, Invincible, Peacemaker. I love shows with stories that don't go on super long and that have enough action to keep you entertained, but they don't need the action. Most of the best parts of the story are the characters. The best parts of the show is the story. Not just, eye candy. I could just watch animations on YouTube if I just wanted to watch a fight. Seeing Walter White, Homelander, Invincible, Peacemaker, and especially Saul Goodman. Those characters are very near to my heart. Watching their journey, the good and the bad of it, very, very important to me. And so a show, Severance, that is basically like the idea that you take these characters and they don't exist, or they're not supposed to exist, or they only half exist. And a lot of the characters that I mentioned, the Homelander, the Invincible, the Walter, the Saul, they are characters that are finding who they're supposed to be, or they're fighting against what they're not supposed to be. Walter White becoming Heisenberg, James McGill becoming Saul, Homelander becoming more Homelander, Mark becoming the Invincible, And then you have the characters in Severance, they literally don't know who they are. I'm sure if you're watching this from a channel as small as mine, you know the show, you're at least a fan of it, and you're probably seeking out people who also like the show. But like the show is about these people go through something traumatic, or they just want to, I guess, and they get this brain surgery where they get a chip in their head that cuts off parts of their brain, or not cuts off parts of their brain, but their memory. So, for work and for home. So when you're at the job, you do not remember anything about your home life. But while you're at home, when you're in your personal life, you don't remember anything about work. And so it does inevitably create two separate people within you. Because, if you imagine the only memory you have, I'm in school. I'm a senior in high school. If I just woke up at the door of my high school, and as soon as I left the building, I remember nothing, and in my head, I just wake up right back where I was at the door of the high school for another day, I would be a much, much different person than me going home, than me going out with friends, than me playing games, or watching shows, or, doing these things that I love. And it doesn't help that these characters, the company that they're working for, Lumen, you can probably guess it's not very savory. I'm going to get into some spoilers, so fair warning, this is a spoiler to discussion. But I think I need to just talk about these characters. So you got the four main guys, the four main severed. They call them innies and outies. Innies are the ones in the work, outies are the ones back at home. So the four main characters that have innies that are important is Mike, Dylan, Helly, I think is her name. I've watched all of that's available, and I still don't fully know how to say her name. I think it's Helly, Helly and Irving. My favorite character is Irving. I love Irving. I think he's the best one. Again, this is a spoiler thing, so I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off. When they quote unquote killed him, dude, I about lost it, man. I guess he's not technically dead. I know that's kind of a whole plot point for like the episode and the episode after. Is he really dead? They could bring him back. I hope they bring him back. They are still showing off his Audi, so I hope that he comes back. But he might not, and if he does not, then I will be very upset. I love these characters. I think that they're really good characters. A lot of shows, and this is why I'm not a huge fan of a lot of shows, is you have these characters and they just make choices that don't make sense, or they make choices that are just bad choices. And some bad choices you can justify, like, oh, that makes sense, that's what some character might do, or I guess I can understand it in this circumstance. But sometimes it just really hinders the storytelling. A good example that I can think of off the top of my head is season 3 of The Boys, the finale. I think it was season 3. Yeah, it was season 3, when Homelander and Soldier Boy and Queen Maeve and Butcher are all fighting, and Homelander starts to attack Ryan, or like Ryan is in the building, and Butcher's like, no, we can't kill Homelander now. Because Ryan's in the building. And at first, I was like, that makes sense. He doesn't want to hurt Ryan. It's actually really good character growth for Butcher, because he's letting this character this person he hates get away with it because Ryan's involved. The more I think of that, the more I'm like, nah, I think that was kind of dumb. I feel like that should have, and Butcher just straight up turning on Soldier Boy, I don't think was a good idea. He very easily just could have said, hey, let's get Ryan out of here and then we'll fight. But that's a whole tangent. But you know what I'm saying. A character does something that is really only a choice made for plot. No one would actually do that. It's the trope of like main character hides something from romantic partner. Romantic partner finds out something, but it was misunderstood, and doesn't give the main character opportunity to explain, which causes a divide until the big climactic breakdown when they reveal it to each other and then they make up and it's good. I hate that stuff. I hate that stuff so much. That's probably my most hated cliche in television and movies, is the misunderstanding / keeping secrets. I hate that. I hate it so much. I think it's a really lazy way of pushing a narrative. But what I'm getting at in this very long tangent is Severance does have that, but it has it in a way that is feasible. The big thing that the big hidden secret that I can really point to is Helly. All the characters, they go to their Audi and they find who they are in the real world, and Helly finds out that she is the part of the bloodline of the company, the Egans. They are the reason that she's in that hellhole to begin with. She's one of the people that are pushing it forward. She keeps that from her friends, not for very long, but she does keep it from her friends, and I think that makes sense. She's ashamed of herself, and she feels that they will judge her. She's afraid of what they will think of her. She's afraid of what she thinks of herself, because she is inherently, not her necessarily, but her body is the reason that they are in such a terrible, terrible thing. And I think that that makes sense. And again, I also appreciate that even though she does keep it a secret, it doesn't last very long. I think it was only like an episode or 2, maybe 3, until she says, or it comes out what happened, and the characters don't care. it's not a big deal. It doesn't drive a wedge between the main character and Helly. It doesn't keep her isolated from the team. It doesn't cause her to betray the team until the end. I hate that stuff too. It doesn't. It feels like a natural thing that a person would want to hide from their friends, and then when they have the strength to bring it up, or it gets brought up anyway, the friends don't care because they still care about her. I think that was really, really well done. It was that cliche that I hate done well, and I really liked it. And that's kind of a lot of the show. I think a lot of the show, it does a really, really good job of doing something that otherwise I would not find interesting, but it does it in a way that I really, really like. Let me think of another example. So here's something that I don't really like in a lot of shows is how they handle religion. I feel in a lot of ways religion is used as an extension of either the writer or the director's feelings on religion rather than an actually good plot device. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I know what I'm talking about. To me, but like they use religion as either a throwaway joke or they use it as a way to push something along, but it's kind of obvious it's not really given a purpose. It's just kind of there. An opposite example of something I think is good with religion is the Persona series. I know, Persona Glaze, here we go. But especially Persona 5, spoilers, the quote final boss, it's supposed to be Yaldabaoth, is literally Yaldabaoth. It's from a real religion, a real story of a false god who imprisons the world. And I never got the impression that using a real false god as the final boss of the game, I never got the impression that it was the writers trying to give their opinion on religion. It does play with themes of people just succumbing to beliefs without actually thinking, and that could be an opinion that is pushed on to the player. But I never got the impression that the writer was saying religion bad, or the writer was saying believe in religion regardless. The main point that I'm getting at with Severance is there's a plot, I think a plot device, not device, but like a little mini plot where Irving goes to Bert. Bert and Irving have a small relation in their innie form, and they don't remember in their outie form. And then once the outie of Irving meets the outie of Bert and they start talking, Bert has a husband, and they all three start talking. And the reason that Bert becomes an innie is not because he went through something traumatic, but because he feels he's going to hell for being a bad person, and he believes that his innie needs the opportunity to go to heaven so that his husband Fields has the opportunity to be with at least part of Bert. I thought that was super interesting because it brings up religion, which I think is very touchy in how you handle it correctly, but it uses it in a way that is really thought-provoking. If it's one soul, one body, but if it's split to where you have two completely separate memories, two separate personalities, one could be evil, one could be good, would they be considered separate entities? And in a religious context, would one go to heaven and one go to hell, or are they all tethered to the outie? Or I don't know. And I think that's a really, really fascinating concept that I'll have to think on more. But I really like how it was presented in such an interesting way, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really cool how they thought of that, because I wouldn't have thought of that. I don't think I would have thought of that. And I think it's good timing. Obviously, the show takes a while to develop, but it's good timing. I haven't heard as much about it now, but I heard a lot about it both a year or so ago about the Elon Musk's brain chips. Putting something in your brain. Stream music directly to your ear canal. I think that stuff is scary. I think it's a fun idea and concept, but when you're actually thinking about it and how real people would use it, I really don't want to get Spotify premium ads while I'm trying to sleep, or like literally playing Unskippable inside my brain. That's some nightmare stuff right there. And it makes me wonder, this surgery, the severance surgery, it doesn't seem too far out of the line of possibility. I mean, obviously, a lot of the stuff in Severance is, very, dystopian on purpose. It's very outlandish on purpose. But I don't know. I get the feeling that the surgery itself might not be as far-fetched as you'd think, and I find that very, very intriguing. No, I want to talk about the characters again. These characters are very, very special, and they're they're incredibly well written, and they're phenomenally well acted. I think they chose a very, very good cast. The one I was worried that I wouldn't like certain characters. Dylan, he kind of feels when you meet him for the first time, like the first episode, he feels like the cliche, oh, that's the main character's fat best friend who literally just says quippy jokes and has no personality other than funny. The bad Marvel writing of the show. But I never felt that way. Same with the main character's sister's husband, his brother-in-law. He has like that Redditor energy that I feel could have very, very easily been horrible and to bear, but it was done really, really well. I really, really liked it. Yet again, these characters, they're very, very well acted. I can't remember the name of the actor off the top of my head who plays Dylan, but he does a great job. He does a phenomenal job. He's serious when he needs to be, especially when Irving, quote unquote, died. He feels guilt for not listening to him, and he demands a funeral. And that was a really big moment because he never really stands up for anything at that point. He's kind of stood to the side and been upset but not said anything, and now he's really fighting for it. And I thought that was really, really cool to see. Another character I really like is Milchek. He starts off as kind of like the assistant, but in season 2 he gets promoted to the floor manager. He's really, really good. I like him a lot. He has this like super fun, upbeat, happy energy, but you say something bad and he's like right back down to just pure evil. But I like that there seems to be something about him. He seems to be kind of cracking a little bit under the pressures of his work. There are some characters I do not like, but I don't like them on purpose. I think that they're really, really well written and acted, and you're supposed to not like them. What's her name? I can't remember her name, but she's the one that always has the headpiece on and says, the board has concluded the call. I hate her so much, but I think that's on design. Her smile makes me irrationally angry. I think the only character that I do not like, that I actually just don't like in general, is Harmony. She was the old floor manager, and now she is just kind of around doing her own thing now. I did not like her character. I felt that she was kind of boring, and I liked her when she was in the boss's chair, being an evil dictator. But once she left, or once she moved past, I didn't really care for it. And then the last episode, the second to last episode of the second season finale, which I just watched today, is basically 35 minutes. It's 35 minutes of just her. It's kind of like giving a little bit of her backstory. And while it was not a bad episode, I honestly did not care. It was the one episode of the whole show that I'd say I did not like. It just felt really boring. It didn't have the same cool vibe of the main show. Especially seeing, how interesting and how cool the Lumen office is. It feels like a Stanley Parable. That was all I could think of in my head, which is this is literally just Stanley Parable with how it looks like an office in a void. And I loved it so much. And then, I watched the whole thing except for the second to last episode for a day or two. And then I finally sat down and watched it today, and I was very, very just kind of, man, that's it. That's it. It felt like it should have been 20 minutes longer, and it felt like it should have been cooler. It was just kind of her walking around. And I want to touch on the episode a little bit, just because I feel that I got to get some negatives to counterbalance the glazing I'm going to do on this show for the next few years. But this last episode, it was just so I'm trying to think back of what all happened, and I can just think, she went to this town, she met up with an old friend who looks like some kind of lover because they had a kiss, and then they went to a house of a woman who seems to know her. Her mother passed away. She was chosen to be an Egan or a Lumen head or whatever, and her mother died while that was going on, and that makes her upset. They get into a scuffle. She gets high, cries a little bit, and then she leaves. And she calls the main character. He's sick right now. It's like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I think that would have been a pretty cool episode on a worse TV show, but with a show that has had such standards, in my opinion, It was kind of a big letdown, especially for the semi-final of the season. So I really hope the next season amps it up, or the next episode amps it up when it drops Thursday. But I'm excited for it. So, overall, I'm getting to the point where it's 1 a.m. and I want to go to bed. I love this show. I love this show very, very much. I think it definitely will be up on the list of just pure cinema that I'm going to remember for a while, and I'm going to have in my brain for a while, especially if they make more seasons of this show. Phenomenal acting, phenomenal writing, amazing concept, good execution. The camera shots are beautiful. It's such a good show. It really is up there with the likes of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and all those shows for me. I don't think it dethrones my favorite show, which is Better Call Saul. I still think Better Call Saul holds that title, but definitely probably second or third right now. So unless they have a generational fall off with the next episode or the next season, I have extraordinarily high hopes and high expectations for the rest of this show. It's great, and it deserves all the praise it gets. So I think that'll do it for today. I want to try and record more, so I'm probably gonna increase the uptake in videos. And I don't like to do this. I don't like to ask for people to do things because I think it's cringy, and I know a lot of people don't like it. But if you enjoy these types of videos, you enjoy the ramblings or the talking of stuff you enjoy, and I really would encourage you, if nothing else, I'd care more about people commenting than the likes or the subscribers or the watch time. I like to have conversations, and that's the whole point of this YouTube channel is conversation about things I enjoy, things I'm passionate about, things I hate, And so, hey, if you're a big fan of Severance, or you're a big fan of anything that I talk about, leave your comment. Tell me what you agree or disagree with. Tell me your opinion. I will respond to all of it. I'll respond to everything when I get the opportunity. I love conversations like this. So, like if you want it, subscribe if you want it, and share it with your friends if you want it. But if you do anything, leave a comment, join in the discussion. I'd really appreciate that. So thank you for listening to my ramblings of a very, very tired man with a sore mouth who is ready to go to bed. So, thank you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Yeah, I'm literally Markiplier.